Hi stamping friends, it's Terry Gaines. In this video I'm going to share a card made with a Peaceful Cabin bundle, which is a stamp set and a die set bundled together for a 10% savings, or you can purchase them separately. They are in Stampin' Up's July through December 2021 mini catalog. They are a part of a suite of many beautiful products in the suite, including some designer series paper. The designer series paper is Peaceful Place, which is 12 sheets of 12 by 12 papers, 2 each of 6 double-sided prints. One side of the print has a silver embellished print, and the other side has a coordinating design, and they are absolutely beautiful. So great for many different home decor projects, scrapbooking projects, and just all kinds of fun projects. I'm going to be using this top print for the card design. For the materials for this card, we need a postcard, and the color I'm using is basic gray, which is 5.5 by 4 1/4. Piece of designer series paper, which is 5 1/4 by 4, and 2 pieces of basic white cardstock. The first one is 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 by 2 3/4, and one that is 10 1/2 by 4, scored and folded at 4 or 5 1/4. So hopefully I said all of those right. All the dimensions are right here. And we are going to use the stamp set and the bundle or the dies for this set. So the stamp set has these beautiful images. We're going to use these trees. They're all one stamp, and the cabin, and a couple of the sentiments. The beauty of the dies is the dies will cut out the cabin area, or the outline of the cabin as shown here. This is stamped and cut out, and so will the die will cut out the trees. So those are the 2 dies that we're going to be using for this card, and I'm going to show you everything you need to do to duplicate this card. So we've got the materials, we've got the 2 dies, we need the stamp set, and I found it best to use the Stamparatus with this stamp set. So I am going to use the Stamparatus for this. I already have my stamps on the Stamparatus plate. You get 2 of these with the Stamparatus and 2 magnets underneath. And I put painter's tape on my magnets, and I am going to use a piece of grid paper, and I actually have the whole tablet, or part of a tablet. I just want one sheet in here. And I'm going to place this down and use the magnets. I put painter's tape on my magnets to create a handle for them. And I'm going to place the magnet down. And the first part we're going to do is with the trees. So before we stamp, we are going to cut them out. So with this folded cardstock, we're going to take this die, and we're going to place the tree die up towards the top and run this through the die cutting machine. When you do that, you can cut both layers at the very same time. So the card's going to open like so, and we have this top part. We need that top part for a template. So I did that ahead of time. I placed it down, ran it through my die cutting machine, and got these 2 pieces. I placed the stamp on my Stamparatus plate, and now what I'm going to do is ink up the trees and stamp on this grid paper. This is the small grid paper that Stampin' Up sells, and I'm just going to tap real lightly here, and it looks like I got a fresh ink on that stamp pad, so I got to be a little careful on not to tap it too much. So I stamped on this grid paper to get a placement of where the stamp is on the plate. Now I'm going to take this die, or remnants of this piece. It is double folded. I am going to lay this over this image and go make sure I have even spacing around all the trees. And I always kind of don't get this lined up right with the view I have, but we'll do the best I can. And then I'm going to use the magnets to hold this down. Now what I can do is open up this card, place this right in that opening. Now this is going to be stamping the inside of the card, and I'm just going to double check to see if I have that. I'm gonna just move it over a little bit here, And like I said, I got a little different angle than I normally would with the camera in the way. But we're going to say video purposes, this is going to work out great. Use your magnets to hold them down. Make sure you don't get your magnets too close to each other because they will collide, and in some cases they're going to collide so hard they're going to break. So now I'm going to stamp the trees, and there we have the tree stamped right on that piece. And this is basic gray, and as I mentioned, it is a newly re-inked ink pad. So you just got to tap that ink. Now what I did was I opened it up to stamp the front of the card. So now I have the tree stamped on the front and the inside. I also want an inside sentiment, and what I've done for that is I'm going to place this down so it's straight, put this along the edge here, put the magnets down here because on the other side of this plate I already have the sentiment lined up, and if I got everything squared up good, it will stamp straight across the inside of the card. And I'm just going to push a little bit harder right there, and it looks like I probably didn't get enough ink on that portion, so we're just going to ink that up again. And my videos are unedited. They do contain bloopers, and you get to see all of the oopses, and if I make a mistake, we'll figure out how to fix it. But this is the inside the card. Now I removed this just now. If you are making multiples of this card, do an assembly line process and do this portion for as many cards as you want to make. This is going to be a beautiful card. I know you're going to want to make more. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, move that aside, and we're going to bring in the cabin. So the cabin is cut from this smaller piece of cardstock, which is 5 1/4 by 2 3/4. And I'm going to line it up here, and I make sure that top of that chimney is parallel with that, and run that through my die cutting machine, and I will get two pieces like this. Again, I'm going to use this as the template, and this is going to be used with the Stamparatus. So the Stamparatus, you get 2 different plates. So on this plate, I have the cabin already on here, along with the outside sentiment that is from the stamp set. And so I'm going to just tap the ink on here, press down on my grid paper. Now that's going to give me the placement. So now what I'm going to do is take this, line this up to the image to get my template around the cabin. Take this piece, place it in here, and let's see how well I've got this for alignment. And that's the test. And I hope I'm still on camera. I think I am. Press that down, and there we have the outside stamped. So as I mentioned, if you have multiples, do all of these before you take that template off. And I love the Stamparatus for multiple stamping and also for single stamping too. And again, I mentioned my ink pad's got maybe a little bit too much ink on there. I just re-inked it, so I can see I got too much ink, but you know what? You don't make mistakes. So now we're going to do the assembly. So for the assembly, the designer series paper is adhered to the postcard with a double stick adhesive, and I'm going to watch opposite corners so that way I can get equal spacing on all 4 sides and drop that into place. This piece is going to be adhered with dimensionals. So we're going to be using quite a few dimensionals for this. You always have an option to adhere without dimensionals and go flat to your card surface, but I just like the added depth that the dimensionals add. And because it's a fairly large surface here, we do want to get a fair number of dimensionals on this so it does not kind of cave in or collapse, if that's the right words to use. And you can always snip the edges and use a few pieces. I am going to put one more right there. So now the take your pick tool works great to get the backings off. And we'll just hold those down and get all of these off. Now this card, the very first one I made, my prototype, I put this first layer on and I had it 1/8 of an inch up from the bottom, which meant the card would not open and stand appropriately if you wanted to put it on a desk or a mantle. So what I'm going to do is take this edge of the cardstock and line it up flush to the bottom edge of the card. That way, it will stand up on the desk. Now that's the first layer. Isn't that pretty already like it is? Now we're going to put the cabin right down here. There is a tip you need to know. When you open this up, you see the cabin right here. That means we do not want any adhesive there. So we're going to avoid putting any dimensionals right in that area. So we will go around it, but not right there. And again, we're going to have to put a few dimensionals on this because we don't want it to collapse down. And this also works great for just trimming those edge pieces. I'm not going to take the time for the video to do that, nor do I have it even prepped to save some video time. But this just shows you that I have quite a few dimensionals on here. I'm going to take the backing off. And I think you're going to love how this card turns out. I have 2 additional samples to share with you once I get this card assembled using a couple different products. And here we go. Now what we're going to do is line these 2 edges up here. And now we have some depth to that card. And there you have a fun, beautiful card made with the cabin, Peaceful Cabin bundle. Here is another of the very same, everything identical, with the exception that the background was stamped instead of designer series paper, and a few rhinestones added for some sparkle on that. And this one is smoky slate instead of basic gray, and this is using the Evergreen Forest 3D folder instead of designer series paper or stamping. So those are 3 different versions of this card that you could create, and I hope you found this video helpful, and I would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the red box under the video, then click the bell, and then you will be notified as I upload new videos. If you found me via YouTube, there's a comment section in the comment section. There is a direct link to my blog post where I'll list the measurements and the supply list. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed creating this project. Take care and happy creating.